Corruption in law enforcement can have devastating consequences, not just for the victims, but also for the officers themselves. Here are some shocking instances of corrupt cops who made decisions that ultimately led them straight to the courtroom, just like this officer whose aggressive behavior led to a career-ending mistake.
January 28, 2015, where his life changed forever. He was stopped by the defendant, a then Inkster police officer, and his partner, Officer Zeleniewski. Mr. Dent was stopped for a minor traffic offense. With his hands extended out of his driver's window, he was grabbed out, thrown to the ground, and struck 16 times in the head. He was thrown onto a window shield.
Just wait until you hear the whole truth about what Officer Melendez actually did, so make sure to stay tuned.
The responding police officers arrived as the defendant is wrestling the defendant to the ground. Mr. Dent was struck, kicked, and tased while on the ground by what appeared to be a group of angry, anxious police officers that celebrated after the defendant was beaten and cuffed. The video in the car shows the police officers fist bumping as a celebratory act of bravery. But the one image that struck out to the court was looking at Mr. Dent in his cell, shaking his head.
If you think this was bad, just wait for what came next regarding the officer's messages with one of his comrades. So keep on watching to see just how bad it really is.
In disbelief of what had occurred to him. If his conduct was indicative of what he was thinking, I would have thought this. What crime did I commit? Being a black man in a Cadillac, stopped for a minor traffic offense by a group of racist police officers looking to do a nick. As Police Officer John Zeleniewski, auxiliary police officer, testified in court too, in his response to a text, was quoted as saying, "At least give me the satisfaction of knowing that you're out there beating up right now."
Such racists should be in jail, but instead they end up on the police force, a testament to how corrupt the system is.
The purpose of it was to harass and degrade a motorist in Inkster. The man chosen for your game was Floyd Dent, a black man. The game went like this. Let's follow a car in a known drug area, and based on your years of training experience, you knew that the motorist would likely be a black person. No license, armed with a gun or drugs in a vehicle.
Melendez employs the most disgusting tactic I've ever seen in this next clip.
It took me several days to read the letters that people sent talking about your character, about the man that you are, about how you went in Westland and helped to save 3 senior citizens from a burning building. 3 of those letters, I believe, were from African Americans, and one even professed to be like a mother. One or two things, either they're all racist or there's something redeeming about you that somehow in some way you forgot that night.
The age-old trick of the fake letters. He's just digging himself into a hole here, and he's going to pay for his horrible actions. So make sure to keep on watching to see his face when he hears his sentence.
At the station, the other eye of justice captured you and your posse making fun of Mr. Dent, mimicking him struggling while you all wiped the blood off your uniforms with disinfectant while he watched. Such an awesome, caring, properly trained police officer. You led your fellow officers down a path of cowardly behavior. You betrayed your city. You caused your lovely wife heartache. And you caused Mr. Dent severe anguish.
Tell him to make fun of Mr. Dent now. With the look on his face, seems like he no longer has the guts.
Today, I can only punish your conduct, but only you and God can change your character. I've had an opportunity to listen to both sides. And I had to say this because I didn't say this during the trial. But it was my privilege to be able to oversee this trial because I had great lawyers.
The guilt on his face is apparent, but this horrible officer is only sorry because he happened to get caught.
I am going to commit you to the Michigan Department of Corrections. However, after weighing the allegations in this particular matter and looking at all the circumstances, including what you've done and who the person I really believe that you are. I'm going to commit you to the Michigan Department of Corrections as to count 1 for no less than 13 months, no more than 10 years. As to count 2, I'm going to give you 90 days credit for time served and close it out. The court's going to give you 85 days for credit. You have 42 days to appeal my decision. That concludes this matter. Thank you.
Officer Melendez should be glad he doesn't face more jail time, because I guarantee you, as soon as he's out, he does the same thing all over. However, this next officer made this crime look like child's play, especially with the deceitful manner in which it was carried out.
Let's do this. I'm gonna shoot you this number.
On September 19, 2022, a correctional officer, Dale Gilbert, was caught by Sergeant Valerie doing something absolutely unbelievable. Follow to see how this shocking crime unfolds.
Sergeant Hampton seems to think that you may be able to help me out on some information. It's my understanding, you correct me if I'm wrong, that you having some problems with your visitation. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, look, here's the deal. I may be able to get you a special visit with your son, but that's contingent on whether or not you can help me with these drugs coming in.
This was possible because of an inmate who snitched on him in return for a favor.
Yeah, and I understand that, you know what I'm saying? But if your special visit is worth it, then I'm asking for your help.
If you say you can work my visit, it's like, yeah, man. You got an officer over there. If the money's right, you can get whatever you want.
I need to know who it is.
It's Gil.
This conversation? It's a ticking bomb about to explode into something much bigger. But what's more shocking is the audacity of what comes next. So make sure to keep on watching to see the guts of these cops.
I move on this pretty fast. I mean, good information can come stale pretty quick. I'm gonna try to set up a drug reverse. Let's do this. I'm gonna shoot you this number. You pass it to Gilbert. You let him know that that's your cousin, to get at him, and we'll make it work from there. Is that straight?
Man, just make sure you take care of what you're gonna take care of for me.
I got you. That's a done deal.
I done did my part, so that's what's up.
I got you.
We done here.
That's it.
You won't believe how far this rabbit hole goes. Things are about to take a jaw-dropping turn.
He's kind of getting me worried a little bit. Gilbert haven't showed up for work yet. I'm scared he may have got wind that we was on to him, and it's even quite possible that he done quit his job and maybe have left town. I mean, it's happened before.
Could Gilbert really have disappeared, taking all his dirty secrets with him? Or is something even darker at play? Make sure to stay tuned to see just how deep this goes.
Hey, buddy. Okay, you got a hold of him? Okay, look here, we'll take care of it from here. I got a court order for cocaine and marijuana. Joe, you doing all right?
Yeah, man. How about you?
I'm not gonna wire you up until after we do our briefing.
You're planning on actually doing the exchange and take that in here?
No, sir. Right up here at the truck. Right outside. And in a perfect world, what I want to happen is him to pull in to one of these slots right here where Joe can just walk up to the car.
And now it's clear. This is no small operation. You won't believe the squad's next move.
We have to use extreme caution when dealing with a person like this. All our correctional officer staff have concealed carry weapons permit, so we're going to treat Gilbert as if he is armed and dangerous. Might decide to start shooting or want to fight or take out running on us. You back a guy to a corner and things are subject to go left real quick.
Walking into a situation that could explode into bloodshed at any moment. And with a man like Gil, the stakes couldn't be higher, so make sure not to go anywhere.
I'm in room 123. How far out are we?
I ain't that far away. I'll be there in a minute.
All right, I'll be watching for you.
Like him making the circle here and just fixing to pull into the parking lot.
All right, he's making a circle. Ready. Everybody just stand by where you at. Stand up, cash, stand by.
The moment we've been waiting for is almost here, and how it all unfolds will stun you.
Coach Freed Park.
Subject accepted the package of contraband, the drugs, the cell phone, accepted payment for it.
All right, listen. Agent Clark, would you help search this vehicle?
He was bragging practically about all the contraband he's brought into the prison.
Just when you think things couldn't get worse, things that are revealed send shockwaves throughout the entire operation. There is more to come, so make sure to stick with us.
Let's bring a chair over here. All right, you just have a seat right there. Court advisor was right.
You know what happens next?
I don't guess.
We going to jail.
Gil's smug attitude won't last long when he's going to be sentenced in the court. Justice has never sounded sweeter, especially when the corruption gets caught on camera. What's most unsettling about Gil's downfall is the sentence he received, 94 days. It's a frustrating and dark reality. It serves as a glaring reminder of the system's failure to truly hold its own accountable. This next criminal takes things to a whole new level, like this Mafia member getting punished for his horrific crimes now.
One for each stitch that I received in my mouth.
In October of 2024, Arizona Mexican Mafia member Ramon Bueno got into a near-fatal altercation with an officer. The man was put on the stand for his crimes, which will disgust you to your very core.
We are on the record in the state of Arizona versus Ramon Luna Bueno, CR 2014-149887-001 and CR 2014-149. Oh, just that case. Counsel, appearances, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. Ellen Dahl on behalf of the state.
Good morning, Your Honor. Vernon Lorenz appearing on behalf of Ramon Luna Bueno.
Good morning, and good morning, Mr. Luna Bueno.
Good morning.
May I please have your full name and date of birth, sir? In preparing for today's sentence, the court also takes into account that the jury did find the defendant guilty of the following aggravating circumstances.
What you will hear next is horrible enough to make your ears bleed, so make sure not to go anywhere.
Infliction or threatened infliction of serious physical injury. The offense involved the use, threatened use, or possession of a deadly weapon or dangerous instrument during the commission of the crime, specifically a gun. The court would note that the defendant's prior felony convictions would serve as an aggravating factor as to counts 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 11, and 12. The court did preside over the trial in both of these trials, the trial that concluded on January 16, 2019, as well as the trial that concluded on December 19, 2019.
I, for one, am horrified by this man's actions. Make sure to stay tuned because it only gets worse from here as people come in to give speeches.
Has denied any involvement and continues to fail to accept responsibility for his actions. On the early morning hours of October 8, 2014, the defendant had no regard for the life or respect for law enforcement. The actions by the defendant and his blatant disregard for human life could have easily killed officers Trooper James Casey, Ronaldo Cruz, and Mike Alfano. Because the defendant's actions, the lives of these officers, their families and friends have been changed forever.
This isn't all. The rabbit hole only gets deeper from here, and this particular one is as deep as it gets.
A task force was established to apprehend the suspect. Employees were pulled together from other units within the Phoenix Police Department, and they were assigned to work 12-hour shifts to assist homicide investigators without any days off. The investigation was exhausting on all investigators involved, and personally, I was without sleep for several days worrying about the defendant as to whether he was going to kill, injure, or seriously disable anybody while on the run in his effort to elude police. The defendant was a known violent gang member and would not hesitate to hurt or kill others in furtherance of his criminal street gang.
Look at the man. He has absolutely no remorse for what he's done. This woman's request in this next clip perfectly reflects that.
The defendant was interviewed after he was arrested. He denied any and all involvement, although physical evidence and witness statements put him inside the vehicle and as the shooter. During the interview, it was more important for the defendant to stay in good graces with his gang rather than be a man and accept responsibility for his actions. I respectfully ask that you sentence the defendant to the maximum on each of the counts. Thank you very much.
If you thought this was eye-opening, just wait till you hear the beans spilled in this next speech. So don't you dare go anywhere. This is where it goes down.
I've worked the Arizona Mexican Mafia for over 2 decades. And in that time, I've found that not only are they one of the biggest threats on the street, but also within corrections as well and detention facilities. I think that everybody needs to know that based on their own code of conduct, it mandates that they commit violence, that they spill blood. It mandates that they support other members. Mr. Bueno, he will never be safe in society to other people.
What the investigator will say about Mr. Bueno next will show you how absolutely despicable he is.
The actions of Mr. Bueno, those are brownie points for him, Your Honor. Not only will he have elevated status and reputation within the Arizona-Mexican Mafia, but within the ranks of inmates overall because of his actions of seriously injuring a law enforcement member, nearly killing him. And the other thing, Your Honor, is we have statutes for a reason dealing with criminal street gang members. They are one of the biggest threats to society there are.
Now, we move on to the most moving of them all, the speech of the victim of Bueno's horrific crime. So definitely make sure not to miss this.
When I was testifying, the couple of things that I will mention is, one, originally I was going to ask you to sentence him to, I know numerically it's not possible, to 155 years in prison, one for each stitch that I received in my mouth, but obviously that's not there. I would ask you, though, I'm in concurrent with Attorney Dahl. I would like you, if possible, to run all these sentences consecutive as long as possible, so he will never see the light of day. He is a very dangerous man. Had he just kept still that night, we wouldn't be here. I would have dealt with the driver.
What Bueno's lawyer attempts to do in this next clip is truly disgusting.
Position to decide what the sentence should be. And you're perfectly situated for that because you heard both trials, you've seen the pre-sentence report, you've heard the arguments of the state. All I ask is that you fashion a sentence that's just, that you take into account the things I put in my sentencing memorandum. Should also point out that Mr. Bueno's got his sister Ida in the gallery to your left and some other loved ones, family and friends. Ida's chief among them. She was here as often as she could during the trial, as often as she could be here. So that's what we ask, just a fair and just sentence. Mr. Bueno respects the work of the jury, but he respectfully disagrees with their verdicts.
He thinks he can butter up the judge, but there's no escaping for Bueno now, especially after he speaks himself.
Mr. Bueno?
I would just like to say that I am sorry for what happened to James Casey. Regardless of what they continue to say about me, that he always been in my prayers. But I also like to ask James Casey, as well as Ellen Dahl, if they can look up in the Lord's book and look up Exodus chapter 20, verse 16. That's it. Thank you.
Say that I understand my role here today is to mete out justice, and I will do so. I will be imposing a sentence that I believe is fair and appropriate.
There is no escape for Bueno. He wishes for a reprieve, but his crimes suggested otherwise, and he will pay the ultimate price for those crimes.
You've made some choices that have resulted in you being here today. I can't even fathom what resulted in those choices. I don't know who you were before you got here before me. We've been in trial together for 3 years, not trial. We've been the judge and defendant for 3 years, and you have been nothing but respectful to me, and that you have made choices that have resulted in grave harm to many, many people. But what I'm sentencing you for today is the harm that you caused to the people in this case, keeping in mind the history that brought us here. This is not an action that occurred in a vacuum. This is an action that occurred after a lifetime of other crimes, and those crimes suggest to me that you are a danger to society, in addition to these crimes. Contact with the victims, and the defendant shall pay restitution for all economic loss to all victims. The court is retaining jurisdiction over restitution on counts 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9.
Next, see how a moment of poor judgment led to a lifetime of regret when this officer took things too far, believing he could bend the rules without facing any consequences.
I said I had heard nothing in this trial to change any of my rulings. So why?
Testimony, Your Honor.
Pardon me?
That was before the
Don't
testimony.
get brazen with me. I'm about to hurt you.
Being in the police doesn't always mean you can evade accountability. In these 8 cases of dramatic courtroom showdown, officers face the consequences for their wrongdoings, proving that justice can indeed prevail, especially in the first case, where the prosecutor dug his own grave by challenging the judge. A routine court trial heated up when Kenosha County Circuit Judge Bruce Schroeder scolded Assistant District Attorney Thomas Binger for trying to question defendant Kyle Rittenhouse about evidence that had been ruled out. Rittenhouse faced charges for 2 men and wounding another during a protest in Kenosha on August 20th, 20.
You indicated that at no time
did this gun, this AR-15, ever leave the state of Wisconsin. Is that right?
Other than the night after, other than that.
Before the shootings?
Correct.
There was a time, though, where you wanted to have it with you down in Illinois, isn't it? It wasn't there?
I believe there was a time when me and Dominic were mad at each other. Yeah.
You were mad at Dominic?
Me and Dominic were mad over something.
And you wanted to have the gun with you down there?
I think I said something along those lines.
You back up for a second here. You have testified to this jury that you used deadly force against Joseph Rosenbaum, Anthony Huber, the man who attempted to kick you in the face, and Gage Grosskreutz on the night of August 25th, correct?
Yes.
And you did that because you felt that your life was in danger from those 4 people, correct?
Yes.
And you are telling this jury that it was, in your mind, justified to use deadly force to protect your own life, correct?
Yes.
You'd agree with me that you were not allowed to use deadly force to protect that CarSource building, correct?
Well, I wasn't using deadly force to protect the property. I used deadly force to protect myself, so.
That you were not allowed to use deadly force to protect that CarSource building, correct?
Yes.
You'd agree with me that you were not allowed to use deadly force to stop someone from smashing the windows of an unoccupied parked car, correct?
I don't think you could use deadly force for that.
You'd agree with me that you can't use deadly force to stop someone from lighting a metal dumpster on fire, correct?
Correct.
You'd agree with me that you can't use deadly force to stop someone from tipping over.
Correct.
You'd agree you can't use deadly force to stop someone from lighting a flatbed trailer on fire, correct?
Correct.
You'd agree with me that you can't use deadly force to stop someone who is about to start an unoccupied car on fire, correct?
Correct.
It looked ridiculously stupid that the prosecutor brought up evidence that had already been ruled out. It was hard to believe Binger even went to law school after that blunder.
Do you understand that there's a difference between using deadly force to protect yourself and using it to protect property, correct?
Yes.
And you'd agree with me that you're not allowed to use deadly force to protect property, correct?
Yes.
But yet you have previously indicated that you wished you had your AR-15 to protect someone's property, correct?
I'm going to ask you to go into the library again for a moment, please. Please don't talk about the case. Mr. Richards?
Your Honor, Mr. Binger is either forgetting the court's rulings or attempting to provoke a mistrial in this matter. He knows he can't go into this, and he's asking the questions. I asked the court to strongly admonish him, and the next time it happens, I'll be asking for a mistrial with prejudice. He's an
Mr. Binger?
First of all, Your Honor, this was the subject of a motion. I'm well aware of that. And the court left the door open.
For me, not for you.
My understanding of
You should have come and asked for reconsideration. You did on the one motion, and in fact, I granted your motion for reconsideration.
That was on our motion.
Excuse me. That was their motion for reconsideration, which I denied. But I said I denied it, or I indicated a bias towards denial is what I did. Held it open with a bias towards denial. Why would you think that that made it okay for you, without any advance notice, to bring this matter before the jury? I was astonished when you began your examination by commenting on the defendant's post-arrest silence. That's basic law. It's been basic law in this country for 40 years, 50 years. I have no idea why you would do something like that. And it gives, well, I'll leave it at that. So I don't know what you're up to.
May I respond?
Yes.
The defense could see that Prosecutor Binger was ruining his own case by clashing with the judge. All that arguing was seen as extremely disrespectful and only made Binger look worse.
In my mind, and I argued this, it is identical to what was going on the night of August 25th, in the sense that the defendant was using this exact same weapon. He was using it in a manner to try and protect property.
No, he wasn't.
Your Honor, with all due respect...
I'm not going to rehash the motion. That's absolutely untrue. No. Your argument's of record. My comments are of record, and why I ruled as I did is of record. There's nothing that I heard in this trial to suggest that anything's changed, even if you're correct in your assumption that you know more than I did at the time. You should have come to the court and say, I want to go into this. Why you would think that you could go into it without any advance notice to the court, I don't understand that. And as the defense is pointing out, you're an experienced trial lawyer, and this should not have been gone into.
The defense has introduced evidence that the defendant pointed a gun at a man wearing yellow pants because that person was on a car on the car source lot. Now, there's no justification that I can think of why the defendant would point that gun at someone. The defendant has just testified this morning that he agreed with that person in the yellow pants, that he pointed the gun at him. He said, I was joking when I said that to the guy in the yellow pants, but he's acknowledged that he told the person in the yellow pants, yeah, you're right. I did point a gun at you when you were sitting on a car.
He said, I did. That's what he
Exactly.
testified.
So he's agreeing. May I finish, please? I'd like to have a chance to make a record if I could, without being interrupted, if that's okay. He's also just acknowledged that he knows he can't do that. I am attempting to impeach him now with the prior August 10th incident, 15 days prior, involving the same gun, where he is threatening to use that gun to protect property. It goes...
He had the gun with him.
Your Honor, he is saying he wished he did so he could shoot people.
You know, there's a lot of difference between commenting about something when you haven't got a gun and threatening someone when you do.
You know, it's interesting, Your Honor, because the entire defense theory in this case is Joseph Rosenbaum, who was unarmed.
I want you to tell me what the defense theory of the case is. May I
respond to what you just said, Your Honor? I'd like to respond to what you just said. I apologize, Madam Court Reporter, but I'd like to try and make a record without anyone interrupting me, if that's okay. I believe that there is a central part of this case that Mr. Rosenbaum is making threats that he has no ability to carry out.
The prosecutor should have been disbarred for his outrageous behavior. He seemed to be trying to provoke a mistrial by challenging the defendant's right to remain silent. Judge Bruce was right to yell at him. His actions were completely unacceptable.
This case is about someone who didn't have a weapon, and yet the jury is being told because of those threats, that means the defendant has to defend himself. So, with all due respect, Your Honor, mere verbal threats have already been shown to this jury and used as a basis for someone's subsequent actions. I am attempting with the defendant to use his mere verbal threat on August 10th, 15 days prior, that he's going to shoot shoplifters with his AR-15 to impeach the defendant in a murder trial. I would ask the court's forbearance to do that. I apologize, Your Honor. You're right. I probably should have brought this to your attention earlier. I may have misunderstood your ruling because I made that more relevant. You would admit it, or at least consider it an admittance. And I continue to believe that his state of mind, his intent, his belief as to self-defense is the core of this case. That was the basis for my motion. You were strongly inclined against it. I understand that. But now we're in the middle of trial, and there's been a lot of evidence that's come in that I think makes this relevant. So I'm attempting to impeach the defendant on his beliefs. I believe I'm entitled to impeach the defendant on his beliefs and on his statements.
I'm going to interrupt you now because you're talking about his beliefs. I think that's what they call...
His statements too, Your Honor. Because he just said, can't use deadly force, can't threaten to use deadly force to protect property. So now I'm impeaching him on that.
Before we started today, the court specifically stated in Mr. Binger's presence, there's been nothing to have me change any of my rulings. There have been numerous occasions during this trial where they've opened the door. The one time when they're going into Mr. Rosenbaum's prior, the reason he doesn't like guns, and I said something, I whispered in Mr. Krause's ear, it's because of the prior convictions. Please stop, and he did. He knows if you're going to go into something that's been excluded in a pretrial order, you better ask the court, you better get permission. This is ridiculous.
It wasn't excluded, Your Honor.
You know why it was excluded in the first place? Because it was propensity evidence.
Binger struggled to prove Rittenhouse's guilt, but the judge remained professional and honest, upholding the principle of innocent until proven guilty.
I said at the time that I made my ruling, and I'll repeat again now for you, I see no similarity between talking about wishing you had your AR gun, which you don't have, so that you could fire rounds at these thought to be shoplifters, and the incidents in these cases, which are not, there's nothing in your case that suggests the defendant was lying in wait to shoot at somebody or reflecting upon the shooting for a vast amount of time. Every one of the incidents involves matters that involve seconds in time. So I commented at the time, I don't see the similarity, and I don't see the similarity now. If it's not similar, that's the whole rule. Those are all the exceptions to 90404. Check the authorities. Wigmore and evidence. Judge Weinstein. Colonel McCormick. You have an incident where he's making comments about some alleged shoplifters versus crimes that involve instantaneous actions, whether premeditated murder or whether self-defense. That's for the jury to decide. But I don't see the similarity. I said it couldn't come in, and it isn't coming in. No matter what you think. With what Mr. Richards has said about the progress of the trial, and when you were I said you were over the line, close to or over the line on commenting on the defendant's pretrial silence, which is a well-known rule. I'm astonished that would have been an issue. So I don't want to have another issue as long as this case continues. Is that clear?
It is.
Thank you. Ask the jury to come back in, please.
It was hilarious watching Schroeder repeatedly explain the laws and rules to the prosecutor, who still didn't get anything right. Binger made so many terrible mistakes during the hearing. Schroeder and Binger clashed repeatedly during the trial. Schroeder slammed Binger for violating Rittenhouse's right to remain silent and for bringing up evidence that had been ruled out. Binger later accused Schroeder of unfairness in handling evidence. Despite Binger's promise not to comment after the verdict, Rittenhouse was acquitted on all charges 3 days later. We often see cops afraid of being filmed. And this next case shows exactly why.
Do hereby find the defendant Michael Amot guilty of a misdemeanor of the first degree.
In August 20th, 17, Officer Michael Amot faced charges for a brutal traffic stop where cell phone video showed him repeatedly punching Richard Hubbard after pulling him over. During the trial, Amot was convicted of assault, interfering with civil rights, but he was cleared of a second assault charge.
You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've advised the bailiff that you've arrived at a verdict. Have you arrived at a verdict?
Yes, sir.
If you would, please pass it to the bailiff. The heading in the Euclid Municipal Court, Cuyahoga County, Ohio, State of Ohio, plaintiff. We, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, do hereby find the defendant Michael Amot not guilty of assault, a misdemeanor of the first degree in violation of Section 2903.13a of the Ohio Revised Code as charged in Count 1. We do so render our verdict this 29th day of July, signed by all 8 jurors. Verdict. We, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, do hereby find the defendant Michael Amot guilty of assault, a misdemeanor of the first degree, in violation of Section 2903.13a of the Ohio Revised Code as charged in Count 2. Verdict. We, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, do hereby find the defendant Michael Amot guilty of interfering with civil rights, a misdemeanor of the first degree, in violation of Section 2921.45A of the Ohio Revised Code, as charged in Count 3. We do so render our verdict this 29th day of July, 2022. Signed by all 8 jurors. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are these your verdicts?
Yes, sir.
On behalf of the state, do you wish the jury polled?
No, Your Honor.
On behalf of the defendant, do you wish the jury polled?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 1, is this your verdict?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Are these your verdicts, I should say?
Yes.
Juror number 2, are these your verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 3, are these your verdicts?
Yes, Your Honor.
It was a clear case of justice served. Being an authority didn't give anyone the right to ignore the law and act on their own whims.
Anything further of the jury? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want to thank you all for performing your civic duty. One of the things that I will say is that you've done your job. You came, you heard the evidence, you applied the law, you made a decision. The prosecutor had a job, the defense attorney had a job. Your job was not to prove anything or disprove anything. Your job was to determine what was presented to you, determine the facts, apply the law, render a verdict. You did that. You should leave feeling that you've done your job. No second guessing, you've done your job. If someone else didn't, that's not your job. You've done it. If you'd like to hang around a few minutes and talk with me, I will do that. If you do not, that's entirely understandable. Sometimes the lawyers would like to talk with you to determine how they came across to you. But again, that is your decision as to whether you wish to speak with them. With that, anything prior to discharging the jury?
No, Your Honor.
On behalf of the defendant, anything?
No, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you very much. You're discharged at this time. If you want to wait in the jury room, I'll meet with you later. With that, you're discharged. All rise. You may be seated. Based upon the verdicts rendered by the judge, the jury, the court at this time will enter on, with respect to count 1, a finding of not guilty. Count 2 and count 3, the court will enter a finding of guilty. The court will set this matter out for sentencing, given the fact that under Ohio law, the victim has the right to make a statement or present anything he may wish to present to the court. The court will request the Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court Probation Department to submit to the court any documents or any information that it wishes to submit with respect to pre-sentence investigation or what have you.
The verdict was based on video evidence from citizens, proving why it's crucial to record police interactions. Cameras don't lie, and it's clear why cops are often afraid of being filmed.
It's under the judge. The judge recused himself. It is better that we maintain the appearance of appropriateness in requesting that that be done by the Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court. Anything else? The court will consult with the attorneys and the court administrator and set this matter over for sentencing at a date that's agreeable for everyone. Anything else on behalf of the state?
No, Your Honor.
Anything on behalf of the defendant? If there was a bond or no bond, it'll continue as stated. I want to thank everybody for their conduct. I know it got a little contentious at time.
The The other officers in the hearing were stunned. It should have served as a wake-up call that cops could no longer escape accountability for their actions. Amot was sentenced to 1 year of non-reporting community control and fired from the Euclid Police Department. He was later reinstated to the warrant unit. Richard Hubbard received $450,000 in a legal settlement. It was later found out that Amot had a history of excessive force complaints and had resigned from a previous police job as well. Being a cop means catching criminals, but this next officer became one instead.
I'm about to hurt you.
On October 27, 2018, Daniel McKenzie, Mario Godoy, a 32-year-old suspect who had already been handcuffed and placed in the back of a police vehicle for trying to break into cars at a Roswell apartment complex. McKenzie tased and punched the handcuffed suspect, admitting to the assault during the investigation. He resigned from the Roswell Police Department shortly after. McKenzie was arrested on February 28, 2022, and later sentenced to 12 months in prison for battery and simple battery. He also received 5 years probation for aggravated assault, making a false statement, and 2 counts of violation of oath by a public officer. No one can escape justice, not even cops, as this next case proves.
Kevin Perez committed a battery upon him, so he won't have to account for his own behavior.
A jury of 3 men and 3 women found Miami Beach police officer Kevin Perez guilty of simple battery, a first-degree misdemeanor. This verdict came after State Attorney Catherine Fernandez Rundle emphasized that the guilty verdict was a strong message against excessive force in arrests. Perez could face up to 1 year in jail, 12 months probation, and a $1,000 fine. Initially charged with third-degree felony battery, which could have led to up to 5 years in prison, the prosecutors couldn't meet the required standards for that charge. The charges stemmed from an arrest incident on July 26, 2021 at the Royal Palm Hotel, where Perez was accused of punching a tourist. Although Perez was found guilty, the judge granted him a new trial, with sentencing still pending.
This case is about the beating of an unarmed, handcuffed black man, Delonta Crudup, by an overzealous police officer, Kevin Perez.
Delonta Crudup has every incentive to say that Kevin Perez committed a battery upon him, so he won't have to account for his own behavior.
It is very, very obvious what he has on his mind. And it's retaliation.
Maintaining decorum in court is a cop's duty, but these next 2 did the exact opposite. At the Tonawanda City Courthouse near Buffalo, New York, a routine day turned chaotic when a dispute arose between Officer Michael Lewandowski and a couple. Lewandowski reportedly ordered the couple to leave, but they refused. He then forcibly removed the man from his seat and shoved the woman against the courtroom door. In the hallway, Lewandowski struck the man and slammed the woman's head into a cinder block wall. Despite her protests, both were handcuffed and taken away without charges or explanations. Lewandowski was initially suspended for 10 days for excessive force, but this was later reduced to 5 days after he agreed to bias training. The surveillance footage, not released at the time, came to light 4 years later, showing further misconduct. Consequently, the Tonawanda Town Board decided to fire Lewandowski after 4 years. As a cop, you're supposed to resolve conflicts, not create them, but this next officer chose to go violent over personal matters.
I was never ever expected to be grabbed from the back and thrown from side to side, to a point where I was yelling at the top of my lungs, help, help.
Former Miami police officer Lester Bonenblust, 51 years old, was sentenced to 45 days in jail, 3 years of probation, and 100 hours of community service for assaulting nurse James Nicholson at Jackson Memorial Hospital in May 2018. The altercation began when Bonenblust's niece was denied readmission after being discharged. Frustrated, Bonenblust arrived in uniform, and when Nicholson refused to discuss the patient, grabbed him and slammed him to the ground. Bonenblust accepted responsibility in court, but Nicholson stated the attack should never have happened, especially to a healthcare worker.
I was never ever expected to be grabbed from the back and thrown from side to side, to a point where I was yelling at the top of my lungs, help, help.
From catching murderers to trying to become one, this next cop took things to a whole new level.
Spanning 1998 to this year represents the worst that we could possibly expect from someone in our society.
On May 23, 2013, Former Edison police officer Michael Dotro set fire to the home of his superior officer, Captain Anderco, while the captain, his wife, 2 children, and 92-year-old mother were asleep. Fortunately, no one was hurt in the 4 a.m. fire. Dotro was arrested and, after a long trial, sentenced to 20 years in prison for attempted murder and aggravated arson. He will have to serve 17 years before being eligible for parole. In addition to the 20-year sentence, Dotro received 10 years for official misconduct, 5 years for conspiracy to tamper with a witness, and 18 months for conspiracy to retaliate. He will also face 5 years of parole supervision after his release and is banned from contacting the Anderco family or any other victims. Throughout his sentencing, Dotro showed no remorse and said nothing in court.
Understand where I'm coming from with regards to this, especially if there's going to be any appellate review of this sentence. I want those judges to know the sentence to be imposed in this particular case is because Mr. Dotro, through his conduct and his admissions, spanning from 1998 to this year, represents the worst that we could possibly expect from someone in our society. Yes, he's caused very specific damage to Captain Anderco and his family, to Ms. Zog, to Ms. Dotro, to his own parents, to his families, to his brothers. But what he's really done, and what we're going to be left with after he's walking out the door to spend the next third of his life in prison, is allow people a basis to say that our system of justice has no integrity. How could it when we've allowed this particular individual like him?
Finally, let's look at a case where corruption didn't just end a career, it almost destroyed an innocent life.
Get out of the car, ma'am. You're under arrest. And don't make me pull you out.
What's wrong?
Stand back.
What's wrong?
Rules.
What
Why do you think that you don't have to stop when there's a police car behind you with lights of siren on?
I didn't realize you were off. Please.
Have a seat. You're under arrest. You're going to jail. Get in the car.
Please let me call my husband.
Get in the car.
He's in the hospital waiting for me.
This display of authority was carried out by none other than Officer Reynolds and his buddy. It's a shame that people like him are the ones we're supposed to turn to in an emergency when he's the one resorting to threats to approach an obviously bewildered woman.
She's under arrest. She's going to jail on a cash bond for failing to vacate the lane closest to an emergency vehicle and for failing to yield to an emergency vehicle. Tony, we'll just leave this car here. What is it? Off to here. Okay. We'll leave this unlocked for now. All right. No, don't tow it.
Your incident has been updated. My husband is in the hospital having surgery. He's waiting for me.
Ma'am, I understand. Why do you think it's okay for you to do what you did? Why do you think?
I don't understand what I did.
I've been behind you for 5 miles.
I didn't realize you were following me.
You are not believable.
I'm on my way to look in the hospital to see my husband.
Do you have where's your driver's license?
It's in my wallet.
Is this your purse?
No.
There is no hope for justice when someone lacks basic humanity like this. Clearly, the woman is being harassed. What if he were in her shoes? Would he still feel as proud as he does now? But Officer Reynolds' absurd excuses did not end here.
You can make a phone call, ma'am. Go ahead.
Please, would you explain to me what's going on?
Ma'am, I feel silly explaining to you what's going on. You're an adult, and you have a driver's license. So you know that when a police car gets behind you, turns on the lights and turns on the siren, and I stay behind, stop. You asked me to explain, I'm doing that. When that happens, you are required to yield, to pull over and stop immediately, not 5 miles later. And there are consequences for our actions. When we do something good, we're rewarded. When we do something bad, there's a penalty. Your penalty today is I'm going to put you in jail. And that's so that you don't think you can get away with this tomorrow. You're under arrest and you're going to jail.
Listen to me.
What?
Listen to me. I realized right there in that light right there that I have police car behind me.
That is not believable, ma'am.
What's even scarier than Officer Reynolds' brutal words is that he shows no fear about his body cam footage being reviewed. This either means he's used to getting away with such unacceptable behavior, or these cops just don't care whose life is on the line as long as it's not theirs.
I'm going to put your hands in front of you, and you can call your husband and tell him what's going on. Come on out.
Why would you do this to me? Please, release me.
Get out of the car. I just don't know why you think it's acceptable to do what you did. You see all these police cars? You see all these police officers?
That's how I realized how it was to
Give
me.
me hands. Sit down. You can call your husband, you can scoot in. You're still going to jail, and you can tell him where your car is. Nothing, we're good. She wants to leave. No, we're going to leave her up there. She said to leave it.
You want this one filled out?
No. Can he drive?
Medical City forward.
Do you have family there that I can give this key
It's
to?
only him. He can drive. He just had surgery.
Okay. No, I don't care. It'll be good. Thanks, guys. No, ma'am. Thank you. Baker 1015 to jail with a female on a cash bond. It was not a pursuit. 32544.
10-4.
Your incident has been updated.
It's definitely the latter. They don't care. They'll have an innocent citizen crying in the backseat and still turn a blind eye. A classic hypocrite. That's what Officer Reynolds is.
513, can you start administer this location? I've got a gentleman complaining that he's in pain.
Your incident has been updated.
So you'll be in jail, you'll see a judge in the next 4 hours, and then you'll be released immediately. You don't have to post a bond. Come on out, man. You don't have to post a bond. But when you get out, you'll still have to deal with your tickets. And I'm not accusing you of running from me. You were not running from me. The reason I pulled you over in the first place, come on out, man, was because you didn't move out of the left lane. There were 3 police cars stopped in the left shoulder.
I swear, did you realize I'm sorry? This is my first time.
It's unbelievable. I don't believe it. Come on out, ma'am.
Officer Reynolds should be fired immediately for his actions. Is this the code of conduct these officers are supposed to uphold? Ethically, morally, and mentally corrupt.
Do you have any weapons on you? Do you have a pocket knife? What's in this pocket right there?
Nothing. It's empty.
Okay.
Can I respond or no?
What's that?
Can I respond? My husband is calling.
Yeah, answer the phone.
Hello? No tengo dirección. They're asking for address.
Of what? The jail? Or where your car is?
Here.
This is 350 West Belknap.
350. Sí. Solo busca forward jail, no sé la address. 351
West Belknap.
West Belknap. He had surgery. He was discharged.
Oh, okay.
They were waiting for me.
Okay. A college degree.
Yes, sir.
And you have a driver's license because I've seen it. And you're telling me, just be honest with me for this long. Just be honest with me. You're telling me that you didn't know that I was behind you trying to make you stop until the red light before.
I swear that was an accident or something. I didn't think it was me because...
Come on, ma'am. I was so close to not bringing her in. I'm just writing her a ticket.
This man kept torturing the poor woman, reminding her of her husband and baby, both whom she was worrying about.
Would you like me to take this key to your husband so he can get your car?
I don't know if he's coming. He cannot drive.
He's not able to drive. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I would tell you how you should have behaved, but you know that. You know that you should have pulled over. There's nothing I can tell you that you don't know. You're just not being honest with me.
Being honest, I swear to God. I mean, I'm a Christian believer. I'm not lying. Maybe I was so distracted I didn't realize.
No.
I realized on the light.
Just stop. Just stop. I saw you looking at me in the mirror. Only reason I'm not putting you in jail.
I don't want you to think I'm lying on your face.
I do think you're lying.
No,
I do think you're lying. Have a seat.
Montalvo felt wronged. Since the incident, she's had trouble sleeping or driving, accompanied by frequent anxiety attacks. In response, she filed a complaint with the department, hoping for restitution. Her dual complaints set off an internal affairs investigation monitored by the Oversight Office, which ultimately led to a 7-day suspension of Reynolds. Body camera footage, internal interviews, and documents obtained by the report offer a window into how the relationship between the city's Oversight Office and the police department has evolved in the 2 years since the accountability program's inception. While Officer Reynolds was busy causing chaos for innocent civilians, the next cop wasn't far behind in terms of corruption.
I don't consent you to walk any further.
What was that?
I do not consent you to walk any further.
Okay. You got a gun?
I'm open carrying today, yes.
Okay.
In May 2020, a man decided to exercise his First and Second Amendment rights by carrying a firearm holstered at his side. However, this didn't sit well with someone in his area. Almost immediately after he returned home, an officer showed up at his front door.
Can you identify yourself?
What was that?
Name and badge number, please. Huh? Name and badge number, please.
Officer Bargenier, Off Police Department.
What can I do for you?
Department, man.
I don't consent you to walk any further.
What was that?
I do not consent you to walk any further.
Okay. You got a gun?
I'm open carrying today, yes.
Okay. Well, I was just here because somebody called you guys in suspicious.
Okay, I'm just walking around exercising my First and Second Amendment rights.
Okay. All right, yeah, man. That's you got. What's your name, man?
I don't answer questions.
So, do you live here, or? I'm just asking, man.
I would prefer to remain silent.
Okay. All right.
Am I being detained?
You're not.
Okay. This is a consensual conversation.
What was that?
This is a consensual conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll allow you to proceed.
What was that?
I will allow you to proceed.
I appreciate it, man. I'm just trying to get your name, man. I like to know who I'm talking to.
You can call me sir, good citizen, boss man, whatever applies.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know I share my information with you, so what's your information, man?
Well, you're legally obliged to because you're a public servant.
What was that?
You're legally obliged to provide information because you're a public servant on duty. I'm gonna put this out. I have every intention of picking it up. I'm not gonna litter, okay? I'm gonna put it on the sidewalk, just put it out. That way I'm not holding it.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not littering. I'm gonna pick it right back up when we're done.
So everybody,
I'm going to lock my door, close it.
Okay.
We're having a consensual conversation. I'm not being detained.
Okay. Everybody knows me, man, so I'm just trying to, I like to know who I'm talking to.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
So, what's your name, man? If I may ask.
Well, you've asked and I've answered.
And you... Okay.
Again, I've got no ill intent, no ill will towards anybody. I've got a Second Amendment right to walk around with my firearm.
All right, I'm just trying to figure out who you are. You got a gun, which I applaud you, man. It's okay to have a gun.
Well, can I ask you something then?
What's that?
If you applaud me and you're aware that this is a Second Amendment right and
I got a call saying there was 2 suspicious males in all black, so...
Is suspicion a felony or a misdemeanor?
Depends what you're doing, man.
Well, no, suspicion's not a crime. Can I have your name and badge number, please?
My name?
And badge number, please.
It's 5'2".
Thank you. Officer Meyer, 5'2".
So yeah, man, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I was called in the area. All right.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know you. You now know me. I said my last name, badge number.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I know you as an officer of the law right now, so.
And I just like to know who I'm talking to, man. That's all.
The officer couldn't handle the fact that the auditor wasn't obliged to give his name. Frustrated and feeling powerless, the officer desperately tried to regain control, looking for any way to push back.
And you didn't tell me what you were doing.
Yes, I did. I'm walking around exercising my Second Amendment right. That's literally it. That's literally all I'm doing.
What's your name, buddy?
You can call me good citizen, sir, or boss man.
No, I won't call you either of those. You realize you have to identify yourself to a police officer?
Have I committed a crime today?
You have to identify yourself to a police officer.
Have I committed a crime? I'm not required.
Identification, yeah, you are committing a crime.
Under what suspicion? What's your RAS?
We were called out for a suspicious call. That's what.
Right, is suspicion a misdemeanor or a felony?
You have to identify yourself with me on these calls, okay?
I'm not required to identify myself unless I've committed a crime.
Identify yourself. You are required by law if we ask you to identify yourself. So don't look towards your gun.
No, I'm making sure we're 6 feet apart. I won't look down. I won't move my hands. My hands are up here.
Yeah, I see your hands. They're
Okay.
gonna stay there.
Listen, I do not consent to any search or seizure. This is my Fourth Amendment right. But if it makes you more comfortable, I will not resist you seizing my property from me.
Your property? What were you talking about, man?
My firearm on my side right now.
Okay.
If it makes you feel more comfortable, I'm not allowing you to do so. But I will not resist at all if you decide you want to seize my property from me and just put it aside while we have this conversation so you feel more at ease.
You'd expect another cop on the scene to sort things out, but it seems these two officers have a collective IQ that rivals a doorknob. The auditor certainly makes it seem that way.
I just got a call that there was two males wearing all black. There was no firearm in the description. I was just two males all black with a camera. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. And I happen to see you two.
So, which part of that is suspicious or illegal?
I'm trying to figure out what was so suspicious about what you guys were doing.
Well, that's up to you to discern.
And that's what we're trying to do.
Somebody thought you guys were just it's somebody.
Well, no, it's not suspicious. I don't have a legal obligation to.
You have a legal obligation to identify yourself.
Can you give me that statute?
I was more than happy to look it up for you.
Please do.
It's absolutely shocking that the first cop just can't let it go. He's still badgering for the auditor's name, even resorting to some ridiculous logic. But the auditor sees right through it all.
I want to know who I'm talking to, because I don't want to call you guy or, you know, a lot of people get butthurt about things like they don't want to get called.
Well, let's assume that I don't get butthurt by this.
And also I'm doing an investigation right now. So
Yes, sir.
I would like your name to
put on the record.
Put in
for the paperwork.
Yep.
Yeah. Well.
That's all, man.
Well, if I'm not committing a crime, then.
Well, how are we to know that you don't have a felony and you're carrying a weapon? If you don't identify yourself, how are we to know that you're not committing a crime?
What reasonable suspicion do you have to believe that It is not my vehicle.
Okay.
What reasonable suspicion do you believe that I am committing a crime right now?
He told you right now what we're out here for, okay?
Right.
We're called for suspicion.
Second Amendment.
We are legally mandated to find out what the suspicious activity is, okay?
Yes.
What reason do I have to trust you now? You're not gonna tell me your name?
Well, you have no reason to distrust me.
I have every reason to distrust you.
Well, why is that? I'm not committing any crimes.
You're not cooperating.
Well, I mean, cooperate with what, though? I'm not committing a crime.
With our investigation, you have to identify.
Well, I'm not required to oblige. I'm not obliged to help you with your investigation.
Okay, that's fine. You just sit tight.
Yes, sir.
Now this is where the third officer arrives on the scene. And look at his competence. He resolves the situation in less than a minute. This is the difference between a real cop and those who just spin tales.
Just exercising my rights. If exercising your rights makes it more... If me exercising my rights makes it more difficult for you, then what's the point of you enforcing any rights? You see what I'm saying?
So you scream out the amendments and all that. You know we have a job to do, man.
Yes, sir.
We just can't let.
Did you swear an oath to defend the Constitution when you took your job?
What was the original complaint? Two suspicious males with a camera. Wearing all black, so that's all I got.
Well, black's just a color.
Okay. Were you on the sidewalk?
Yes, sir.
Did you try to go into buildings?
No, sir.
Were you just walking?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you didn't yell at anybody? Nothing
I
like
didn't
that?
say anything to anybody.
Okay. Who called this in? No clue? Okay.
I was just dispatched.
Where was he at when you approached?
They were right here.
Okay. Just him another guy?
I'll tell you, I'll explain.
I believe our job here's done.
Yes, sir.
So.
Thank you. Could I have your name and badge number, please?
Yeah, Officer Vance, 7-5.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Yep, you guys have a great day.
And just like that, the boss demonstrates his mastery. In under a minute, the officer, well versed in the law, arrives on the scene and swiftly puts an end to the incident. What a standout performance. And that's the end of today's cases. Although we do wish the officer in the second one would have been there to put Officer Reynolds and his antics into place. Let me know your thoughts on these tyrants who think they can get away with anything. This is Detective Mystery, signing off.